It's Tottenham versus Aston Villa in the Emirates FA Cup third round. Pressure on Thomas Frank going into this game. I think not too much expectation for Tottenham. So that's the difficult thing. But you feel like going out of another competition is an argument for the club to say, look, we're not competing on all four fronts. Thomas Frank says we want to ideally not only win this game, but win the competition. So stay tuned to the very end to get my thoughts ahead of this game, predicted lineup, preferable lineup, combined 11, thoughts on the opposition, score prediction. We'll cover all of that in a short period of time in this video, but there won't be an intro. Just want to get straight into it. But thank you very much for coming in again. Or if it is your first time, if it is, please do subscribe. Yep. So in terms of the team news, we go for that first. That man, Cuti Romero, if you haven't seen it, has been handed another one-match suspension and also a fine. It's the way that he didn't leave the pitch after being sent off. So he refused to leave against Liverpool. This is what this is for, on top of course, the games he missed through that natural suspension of getting a red card anyway. So unfortunately for Cuti, he's unavailable in this one. At least I suppose it's not a league game like against West Ham next weekend. Having said that, West Ham struggling at the moment. But Romero is out, and to add to what was a horrible team news delivered, by Thomas Frank, and Thomas Frank saying that Bergvall is a doubt. Bentancur's injury looks, the more serious version of what was possible. So Bentancur looks a few months. Kudus is going to be March, April. Kulusevski's nowhere near. Madison nowhere near. Solanke nowhere near. Even if they are, slowly back on the grass. So it was a really negative team talk because in the week we lost, Bentancur, Bergvall, and Kudus, and now Romero in this game. So it's not very good, the team news that was delivered. So all we can hope for is I think the Villa make wholesale changes. So, I mean, it'd be wrong right now to go into this game so I'm confident because Aston Villa are high flying and Tottenham are really struggling under Frank. But Emery's made it crystal clear throughout this year that his priority is the Premier League, and you just know that the Europa League will follow that because Emery's won the Europa League in the past, and it feels like if Villa go all out for it, they can do really well, if not win that competition. I think it's well within their capabilities, and right now in third place in the Europa League and Premier League, that's something that Villa want to maintain. That's more difficult, as we all know, and you progress the more one competition. Of course, I'm not saying that they won't down tools. They're not going to do a Liverpool, in the FA Cup or Carabao Cup. I do think they will make anywhere between 5 and 8 changes. I think that's hugely, hugely possible. And Tottenham will go strong, as Thomas Frank said. We can't afford not to, really. And, we haven't really got the players either in terms of they're all injured, and I made it very clear. I don't think the squad as a whole has got the quality or depth anyway to be able to have a strong second team realistically. But just briefly on Aston Villa, they've really impressed me this year. Full credit to them. They're where they should be. Apart from that Arsenal game, they've been superb. And in that Arsenal game, they missed the likes of Kamara, of course, is back for this game. And they're key players, so this could be really difficult for Tottenham. And I think there's little expectation. And, as long as we're competitive in the game, if we can get through and progress, it relieves some pressure on the manager. But whatever you want about Frank in, Frank out, shake it all about in the middle, whatever, on the fence, we all want Tottenham to win, surely, deep down. You shouldn't want, Tottenham not to win because you want to prove a point with the manager. But on screen, this would be my team if I was Thomas Frank, had the privilege of being Tottenham manager to turn our fortunes around. I would put Kinski in goal. All these teams are on social media, what people will play. I haven't seen Kinski in goal. I mean, that's not number 2 to all, really. And Vicario, of course, playing a lot of games along with other players, Van der Ven, Porro, etc., in this busy festive period. And I did plan to give Van der Ven a rest at some point in this game. This has been made harder with Cuti and Rose now one match suspension, because it means really, realistically, either Davis or Gray have got a partner Danso for this to happen. And Danso, no question really whether he starts or not. I'm pretty sure that he will. So I would put Spence at right back, Davis at left back, Van der Ven and Danso as the 2 centre backs. Again, limited options, but I would rest Pedro Porro. I'd go extremely strong, as you can see on your screen, but I'd rest one player in Pedro Porro. I'd change to 4-3-3. So it's a little bit more defensive because Villa are strong in midfield. I mean, usually they go with a lot of midfielders. They compact midfield. Joe Tielemans, Kamara, John McGinn, Rodgers. But I think it'd be a different midfield look. Maybe less bodies in there. Certainly less quality, you would have thought. Have top players. Villa will still have top players, even if they don't have the quality in midfield. Your Bodegaard's still a good player. Barkley, if he's fit, is still a good player. But I would go with Gray and Paulinho, and Xavier Simmons, the one out of the 3 to have more license to excel. Tell's been a real positive in recent games. Not many positives right now as Spurs fans, but he's absolutely got to get in the team. The way he's playing, and also the players we've got out, would start on the left. Odebeck comfortably play on the right, but we still haven't replaced Brennan Johnson. And with Kudus being out, that is not looking good, and the club needs to do so much more. Of course, you don't want to rush it and get it wrong, but they should have already had a replacement lined up, no doubt. I would go with Charleston up top. One, he's looking lost up top. He's struggling to the point where I'd probably think about terminating his loan, but Richarlison is doing a fantastic job. What will Thomas Frank go with then? I think Frank will make at least one change from my team. That's what I think he'll do. I think Frank will put Vicario in goal rather than Kinski. I think it'll be the only change. I think, of course, he'll stick with his 4-2-3-1 formation and be a little bit bold. That's the thing. We play this formation, which, it's not super, super attacking, but, there's four kind of attacking forward players. And, really the way we play doesn't sum that up. So I think if you're going to play like that, that's fine. But have an extra body midfield. Forget the 10 that sits in front of the two. Have someone sitting with the two and, kind of pack that midfield a little bit more. So that's me predicting Thomas Frank in this game. Combined 11 then, before I get on to score prediction, of course we do two. One with the players that are just available and one out of the entire both squads, forgetting injuries, suspensions and those at AFCON. So out of what we just got available, Vic in goal would go Conser right back, Digne left back, Van de Ven and Lindelof as the centre backs, Tielemans and Kamara in midfield. Then Rogers, Xavi, Richarlison, cheap tiny bit there. Watkins up top. So Spurs fans, don't panic. Of course, Romero is suspended for this game, so I cannot select him. That's why Lindelof is in there. Having said that, he's done a great job since signing for Villa. Clearly a lot better than player than Manchester United had. He's really excelled, and that's credit to Unai Emery. He's a great man manager and gets a lot out of players. You only have to look in the midfield to really realise what Unai Emery's created with that midfield. Good players, but he's got a lot out of them. I've moved Conser to right back. I know he's a centre back, but again, when I say cheat the code, I have with a couple of Villa players and a couple of players in different positions. I'm confident, with that back line, Romero comes back in, he probably does get in there, but, Conser still at right back is probably, he's more better defensively than Pedro Porro. And Digne, I really like. I think he's a great player. And, Tottenham struggle, of course, in that position at the moment for players that are fit and for players that are consistent. I mean, in no doubt as well with Tielemans and Kamara getting in there. Yes, Tottenham have a lot of injuries in the centre of the park or, in those kind of midfield positions, 10s, 8s and 6s. But these two Villa players, I think with every Spurs player fit in midfield will still get in there. Tielemans is exceptional, can play in the 6, can play in the 8, can probably do a drop in the 10, no doubt. And Kamara is a great player, ball carrier and goes under the radar in terms of his performances and what he offers this Villa team, particularly off the ball, but also on the ball. Then I want to get Xavi Simons and Morgan Rogers in there. I mean, Xavi Simons is a player that hasn't hit the ground running, but shown glimpses and with players out for both teams in attacking positions. Barkley and Arna for Villa on top of Madsen, Kulusevski, Solanke Kudus, for example, for Tottenham. Then he means to get in this team. I want Watkins and Richarlison in there. Richarlison's numbers are better. Watkins is a better all-round games. Again, I've cheated the code by putting Richarlison at left wing. And lastly, before we wrap up, then combined 11, the other one with all players. I go Martinez in goal, better all-round goalkeeper than Vicario. Vicario is decent. We have Martinez is world class. We'll go with Conser and Digne again. And Romero coming back in. I just talked to you about the changes, really. Romero coming back in for Lindelof. And the only other changes are Kulusevski and Madison coming in then to that attack with Morgan Rogers and Watkins. That's a fiery front lines. That's my combined 11. All that's left to give then is score prediction. Hand on heart, I think Villa win this game. They have too much quality. I think they make a lot of changes. We'll make substitutions later to get them over the line. I think it'll be 1-1 for ages, but Villa winning 3-1 in the end. Get involved in the comments below, score predictions. Can Tottenham progress to round 4 of the Emirates FA Cup? Will be yet another defeat at home, which would be painful to hear for Spurs fans. But thank you very much for watching. And for now, come on, you Spurs. 5:45 kickoff.